Hi, my name is Erica. I'm from Texas, and my story is about when I was in my 20s and lost in life and faced homelessness and situations where everybody turned their back on me. I grew up in a very strict household. My father was law enforcement, and I didn't have very much opportunities to do anything outside of school, outside of family. As far as discipline is concerned, there was yelling, there was spankings involved. I got slapped a few times. I would get put in timeout and would go to the corner, and to kind of make it, I can remember this, it was almost like torture. My dad would have us sweep up like dirt from the floor to kneel in it during timeout. It was just like little things like that, and spanking, stuff like that I grew up with. And even later, speaking with my mom about the way they grew up, they actually endured way worse than I did. My dad did his best to not punish us in that same way, but he still didn't have the tools to really know how to properly discipline, aside from, some of the things that he went through. And the same thing for my mom, right? I was getting spanked until I was in high school. And I understand now that my parents, they did the best that they could, and I forgive them. And my heart is much lighter than it used to be. When before I was very hurt about those things. The home was very secretive. Like everything that happened in my parents' childhood, everything that happened in my extended family, like my aunts and my uncles, that was very private. But later on, speaking to my mother, I learned that there was a lot of abuse that happened. Not just physical, but sexual as well. There wasn't a whole lot of affection. There was more strictness. There was more like, you kind of had to sort your own feelings out. There was no parental kind of guidance. There was multiple relationships that gave me so much trouble. The first real one that I had outside of being at home, I didn't really have any relationships because I wasn't allowed to date or anything like that when I was at home. Once I did go to college, mostly what I did actually was I would go online because I didn't know how to meet people. I had been so shut in that I didn't really have the skills to know how to meet people, even when I was growing up, because I was so sheltered and I was so restricted on the things that I could do. I didn't know social cues. I didn't know just basic social things, mostly because the friends that I did have, they were only school related, so that's how we knew each other. I didn't know how to really make friends outside of that. So I went to the internet and I started meeting people talking to people that way. I met a few friends on there, and we would go out, we would hang out. That's how I would meet people, because that was a lot easier. It was a lot safer for me. It felt safer, though it was not safer. And because it was more private, I could do it and feel like I was safe. But then I actually met somebody through chat, and he was actually in the military. We met and we just stayed in communication through that time. And it was a very weird relationship. He must have been in Afghanistan at the time. He wanted to get ready to come back. And so he needed help, right? He needed an apartment. He needed all his things back and stuff like that. So he was basically enlisting me to do some of these things. And me, I was so naive back then. I just didn't know any better. Know that was just a complete red flag. Stay away from this guy, because I didn't really have any experience in relationships. I didn't have any type of guidance to that. And so that's why I pursued it. When he came back, we ended up living together and, just going about our lives. But that's when a lot of things did cause problems. That relationship did cause problems in my life. He wasn't abusive to me at first. He was very loving and very doting on me, and I loved that. And then I'm not really sure what happened, but I think he was seeing somebody else on the side or something, and then he started accusing me of seeing other people, and we just started fighting. The initial apartment that we moved into, we moved out of that one and into a new place, and that was when we started having problems. He moved his mom into the apartment with us because we had 2 bedrooms, and we started fighting kind of a lot because we had this extra stress of his mom being there, and she would be kind of really judgmental about the way I cooked, or she would want to do everything and certain things like that. And so we just started fighting a lot. And then I remember this one time where he actually physically threw a mattress at me, and that's where it became very problematic for me, where I just shut down completely. I was in the corner just like coloring a coloring book because I had just shut down so much. I didn't know what else to do. I like went to the little girl side of me. Then I called my friend. I said, hey, I'm gonna come over here because I'm not safe. And so she let me in, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm safer. But in between that time, or during this entire time, he had, for some reason, needed to use my bank account to deposit his money for his job. He got upset and came over to my place, and that's when everything kind of snowballed. I knew I cared about him. I knew I loved him. But at the same time, I knew that the relationship was not for me because he made a lot of bad decisions and he was very abusive. And so when he actually did come to collect his check, he was pounding on my friend's door and just causing a big commotion at my friend's apartment. So instead of, exacerbating the problem, I decided to go outside and talk to him. And I was like, look, I'll give you your money, but I just need you to go away. And he was like, well, I'm going to take the car because, that car was in my name, but he had been maybe paying for like the insurance or something like that. And he was like, well, I'm going to take the car. It's my car. It's my car. I was like, well, no, it's actually not your car. And we were having a, argument. And then he basically grabbed me and threw me out of the way. And I was on the floor. And because of this altercation, the police were called. And essentially he got arrested and I filed a protective order against him. That time was very hard for me. I did end up being unable to have a safe place to live after that situation happened. What ended up happening was when I was supposed to appear for the protective order hearing, I was so scared to go, I didn't end up going. So the judge took my apartment off of the protective place list and only left my friend's apartment. And so when that happened, my friend was about to go out of town, so she left town, but she had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend didn't want me to stay there anymore. So she told my friend something, and my friend kicked me out. And then I reached out to another friend, and he said, he's like, sure, yeah, you can come over. I just need some help with some things. Like, I'll pay you to help me with some things. And he's like, you can sleep on my sofa. I was like, okay, great. At this time, I had left one job because I couldn't continue it. And then I was in the process of working at another company. But this company was commission only, and it was a business to business type of sales. And so I wasn't getting like a paycheck yet because I had just started the job. I was helping my friend out. I cleaned his apartment. I preparing meals, going grocery shopping for him. And then one day he just gets mad at me for moving something that I didn't know I shouldn't have moved. And he got upset and then kicked me out. So then I called up another friend. She was like, yeah, go ahead, come over. It was the property her parents owned, but it was a duplex style where she lived on one side and her parents lived on the other. And she said, come on over. It's fine. You can stay. But at this time I hadn't been eating. I didn't want to spend any money on anything that I didn't need. So I didn't eat. And so I ended up getting really sick. So when I showed up to her house, not to mention that everything was so stressful, right? So once I got to her house, I was just so sick. I just, took some, and I just wanted to go to sleep. But she worked overnight, and her partner at the time and her daughter were there. So they had me sleep in her daughter's room, and then her daughter slept in the room with her partner at the time. I was so glad to just have a bed to sleep in. And then once I was asleep for a few hours, my friend comes in at night to wake me up to tell me that her mom didn't want me to stay there and she needed me to go. When that happened, I was just in shock. Why would they kick me out? I got my stuff together. At this time, all of my stuff was in my car. All the things that belonged to me were in my car because I couldn't stay at
the other apartment, my apartment, I had to take my stuff and go. Like, I remember the police officers staying there with me to get my stuff, and I had to leave. I didn't have anybody else to call at that point, and going back home just wasn't an option for me. Maybe because it was Pride and because it was 6 hours away. It just wasn't feasible at the time. So I decided I just wanted a place to stay. I had maybe $100 to my name. I decided I was just going to go find a hotel, like as cheap as possible, and just try to take a shower and go to sleep because I needed to feel better. I just felt so awful. I was literally physically sick, but also sick that I didn't have anywhere to stay. When I arrive at the hotel, I go in, I asked for a room, and they told me they only have smoking rooms and it's $100 a night. And that was like the only amount of money that I had to my name. So I had to walk away. I was going to go across the street because there was another hotel that I think it said maybe $49 a night or something like that. And although it wasn't like the best, it was at least something. So as I'm walking outside, this guy, somebody pulls up to me. He rolls down the window and he says, "Hey, do you know where I can go to have a good time?" And I just looked at him and I said, "Dude, I don't know. Go downtown. Like, I'm sure there's bars down there that you can go." And he was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay. I've had a really, really rough day, and I'm just looking for a place to stay. So I'm just really sick and I'm just really tired." And he's like, "This is gonna sound weird, but I have an extra room across the street. I've had to move rooms, and they left me with the keys to the other room because I haven't fully moved out yet. So if you'd like, you can have both keys and you can, do what you need to do and get some rest." And at this time I had nothing to lose. So I said, okay, it's better than nothing, right? Like, I didn't really have the money to spend on the hotel. And this stranger was probably nicer to me than anybody else had been to me at that point. And so I took the key and I went over. And he said, all you need to do is just give me my bag. Here's my phone number. I'm gonna come later and I just need to get my last bag. But I should have that room for the next night, and you can just stay there. And so it's okay. I went over, I took a shower, I got comfortable, and then he knocks on the door and, he's like, "Do you want to talk?" And so I said, "Yeah, sure." And, I told him everything that happened. He's like, "Wow, sounds like you've been through a lot." We talked for a little bit, and it was a double bed suite. And so I told him, "Well, I'm getting tired." He's like, "Okay, no problem." He's like, "I'm going to get going here." He got his stuff and then he left. And when I woke up in the morning was a shocking moment for me. I saw a note. It said to put your stuff in storage and to get back on your feet. And this man had left me, I think it was like $400 or $500 on the table. And I was just in utter disbelief that he had done that. I called him up and I was like, "Hey man, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that." And he's like, "I know." He's like, "Hey, did I leave my keys there? I can't find my car, blah, blah, blah." And he just it made an excuse to get off the phone. I was like, okay. And so I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't have your keys. I didn't see anything. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on." And so he's like, "It's fine. I'll take care of it." And then that was it. I never heard from that man again. I could never get in contact with him again. And it was really a strange situation because this stranger just came out of nowhere to help me after I had been so lost and everybody had turned their back on me. Somebody that didn't know me at all just helped me at the time that I was at my lowest. And I can attribute that nothing but, an angel sent from God, especially because I could never get a hold of him again. I couldn't contact him. He never contacted me after that. There was nothing expected or nothing I needed to give in return. That has always stuck with me. No matter what I went through in my life, I can't forget that. And so whenever I think back on those times, I think about, I'm here for a reason, and I feel protected, and I felt loved. Even though I was so lost, I felt like nobody was there for me. Has had such a profound impact on my life, and I wanted other people to understand that they are loved as well. Even if you don't know your creator, and if you don't feel like you're loved, you are loved. And it took me a long time to really understand that and really get to this place of understanding, because there was a while where I struggled even after that situation. But I always look back to that that one time in my life where I was just so lost and I felt so unloved, but I knew that there was something out there that was protecting me, and I can only attribute that to the grace of God. The way my life has changed now, I have a daughter that is a teenager, and I've chosen to raise her in a different way than I was raised. So I'm affectionate with her. I teach her things about the world, about the risks that she could be in, by trusting people and not asking important questions. And I teach her about love and the way love should look. Even though I'm a single mom, we talk about things and we have a very close relationship, something that I didn't have with my own parents. But another way that the way that has impacted my life and the way I move forward is I started my own business after flailing a lot for a while. Through that, I also work with different nonprofits and different organizations that help people that are going through homelessness, that are going through domestic abuse, that are going through food insecurity, through, even working with organizations that help youth and help them through leadership. And there's a lot of different organizations that I work with and volunteer with, because I think it's so important. I didn't really have those things available to me, mostly because even when I was growing up, my dad didn't want me to even have a job, right? He didn't want me to do anything outside of the house. All of those things are really important to me. So now I make extra strides to do that for my community, because I think that's important. To be a role model for other people, to be a pillar and a steward of the community, because I think that's so critical to help others understand that they're not alone, and that through faith and through, community, that they can survive and they can make it through. And so that's what I do now. I think it's important. I think people need that. They need to know that they're not alone, that there are other people that have experienced the things that they've experienced, and they would be willing to even help a stranger, like the way that stranger helped me. Even though I don't know who he is or where he is now, he still reached out his hand and helped me in a time that I was so low. And so I try to pay it forward in those ways.